If you ask yourself, why am I here? What is my purpose? How can I fulfill my potential? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Lifestyle, Relationships, and Career Human Design Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Naja from vanessanaja.com. My mission is to help you be on purpose and fulfill your potential by aligning in body, mind, and spirit so you can feel empowered, joyful, connected, and free. I'm so excited to share with you how to do that through human design. If it feels aligned, I'd love it if you subscribe and share. Now let's get to the episode. It's always a good idea to have your human design chart with you when listening. You can get yours for free at my website, vanessanaja.com/free chart. Link is in the show notes. Hey everyone, Vanessa here, and welcome to episode, I believe it is 16, maybe even 17 of the podcast. And today is the full moon, and this is actually such appropriate timing because today's episode is about lunar authority. And this is a very rare authority. Only 1% of the population has lunar authority, and those are reflectors. So if you have lunar authority, you are a reflector, and if you are a reflector, you have lunar authority. Remember that authority is how you make the big decisions in life that are correct for you. And with lunar authority, you actually want to take an entire lunar cycle, which is around 28.5 days, to make the big decisions in life. Now, remember, this is the big decisions. This is not about what you're going to have for lunch next month. It's about those big things in life. And I know this may sound like, oh, how am I supposed to take 28 days to make decisions? I'm going to go into how exactly this works. So reflectors are very unique and rare beings. They are very open and flexible. What makes reflectors so different is that they don't have any of their centers defined in their chart. So they are completely open. They have gates defined in their chart. They're all completely unique and different and individual from each other. And the lunar, they are very much ruled by the moon, where most other types or the other types are more ruled by the sun. Reflectors are very much ruled by the moon. They have a very special relationship with the moon. And as the moon transits every 28.5 days, it moves through the chart of the reflector, and it gives the reflector something very consistent. And because they don't actually have any defined centers in their chart, they don't have any channels, they are very open, they are very malleable, and they may feel very different every day. And a big part of that is how the moon activates their chart. So as the moon moves through the reflector's chart, it can provide definition for them in different centers during different parts of that lunar cycle. Now, this is actually very consistent for them. So for each reflector, once they figure out exactly how the moon activates different aspects of their chart, that is going to be consistent through every 28.5 day cycle. So, for example, for a certain reflector, maybe on day 2 of the lunar cycle, they may have a defined root and a defined sacral center. And maybe on day 5, they have a defined solar plexus and a defined throat. And this is going to make them feel very different on those different days. They are very changeable, immutable, and they are meant to be that way. Now, when it comes to decision making, it is really important for them to feel their way through their entire lunar cycle when making big decisions and not making decisions on a whim. And this can happen. So, for example, the example I just gave, if there's a certain day in their lunar cycle where their root and their sacral center are activated, they may feel more like a generator, and they may feel like, there's a decision that they want to just make right in that moment. Or if their solar plexus and their throat's activated, they might feel more like a manifestor that day, and they might just want to initiate something and follow the strategy of the manifestor. But neither of those are correct for them. They always need to follow their strategy and authority by type, which is for the reflector leading through their 28 days. And this is not necessarily going to be conscious. It can be. So, for example, maybe somebody gave them a really big invitation or, they initiated them in some really big way. For example, a marriage proposal, wanting to move to a new apartment. They're going to want to really contemplate that over 28 days. And at some point, they will reach clarity and they will just know what is correct for them or not. Now, during this 28-day cycle, as the moon moves through their chart and they get different activations, they get to experience what this potential decision feels like in all of these different variations of how they show up. And remember, this is consistently month after month, they're going to have this same experience. So the moon is going to be every single month, every 28 days, the moon is going to provide a very specific definition for them, which is why they really want to go through that whole 28-day cycle as they make those decisions. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be conscious. So one of my teachers is a reflector, and she told us that one day she woke up and she just knew that it was time to move. And she went back in her calendar and she noticed that about a month earlier, she had walked by a real estate agency and she saw some apartments in the window. And she didn't really think anything of the time, but a month later she woke up and she knew she had to move. So subconsciously below the surface, without her consciously contemplating this activity was happening. And it was that 20 days or so prior that she was kind of initiated into making this decision. So this can be conscious, but it won't always be. And that's totally okay. It's a good idea to, if as a reflector, you wake up one day and you feel like you absolutely must do something, to kind of check back and see what happened a month ago or right? And you also might want to check, so for instance, if you feel this state of urge to do something, do you have the definition of a manifestor that day? Do you have your throat activated and one of the other motors activated? And remembering to always follow your strategy and authority. So my teacher also said that there had been times where she had, with the moon cycle, had the definition of a manifestor. And on those days, she would feel really compelled to initiate something. And whenever she did initiate something, that without following a 28-day strategy, it usually really went sideways. So as a reflector, really learning and looking into your chart and noting what days, what is activated for you, really getting familiar with that experience is so valuable. And the best way to figure that out is there are certain softwares that can do that for you. We're also having a reading with somebody that can help you figure out what your activations are throughout the month can be super, super beneficial. Now, the other things you want to be really careful of is one, you do have an open emotional solar plexus. You are a very empathic person. And you want to make sure that you are not making decisions because you're trying to keep somebody else happy because you don't want to feel their negative emotions, because that's not going to be correct for you. You also want to make sure that you are in the right place and with the right people, with the openness in your design and the fact that as a reflector, you reflect back the environment around you. Being in the right environment is so, so important for you. And when you're not in the right environment or not with the right people, things are not going to flow so well. So being in the right environment is really important. Also, over those 28 days, speaking about it with trusted advisors, and you are using them as soundboards. You are not looking for advice. You don't need advice. You just want to hear your voice reflected back, listen to what you say, how your voice sounds over that 28-day period to help you get to a point of clarity. And then, of course, like all types, you want to be really careful not to make decisions out of your mind, using logic or rationalizations. Our limiting beliefs live in our mind, and making decisions with these underlying currents of limiting beliefs is not going to be the best way to make decisions. So, yeah, being really careful, not making the decisions from your mind, not trying to keep other people happy. You also want to be careful that you're not making big decisions based on somebody else's direction. So you may have people in your life that have a defined G center, which is about identity and direction. And if that person feels like they really need to move in a certain direction, that might not be correct for you. So again, just be very careful about like, oh, am I just deciding on something because I want to move, or I'm following somebody else's direction that is not correct for me. So your best bet, wait through those 28.5 days, get get a better understanding of how your chart is activated through the lunar cycle. It's going to be very unique for each reflector. And, over time, learning to assess those consistencies throughout the month, because every month through those 28.5 days, you're going to have some very consistent experiences, and learning what that is for you, like how you experience the world through those 28 days is super important. Also, don't let people try to rush you into decisions. I know this is one of the most difficult aspects for reflectors, because the world is always in such a hurry and we are so pressured to make decisions quickly. And that is just not correct for you. You need that time. It's really important for you to allow yourself to have that time, to take time, and not allow people to pressure you into making decisions. Because if a decision doesn't wait for you, it's probably not the right thing for you anyway. The correct things will wait for you to go through your lunar cycle in order to know what is right for you or not. So this actually concludes all the episodes on authorities. Next week, we're going to go into the centers. We're going to take deep dives into the centers. So thank you so much for listening. And if you want to learn more about being a reflector, I am in the process of creating the Reflector Deep Dive, which goes very deep into the reflector type, your strategy, your authority. There will be exercises in there, all of that good stuff. And I will leave a link in the comments so you can check that out if you are interested. And that is it for today. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.
If you want to dive deeper, I invite you to get a free human design mini reading report at vanessanaja.com/free mini reading, or book a human design reading with me. Links are in the show notes. That's it for today's episode. I know your time is important, and I'm so grateful you chose to spend it with me. It would mean the world to me if you engage with the episode by liking, subscribing, commenting, and letting me know any questions you have or what else you'd like to learn about. And the absolute best compliment is if you share with someone you think will benefit. It really helps me spread the message. Love and blessings to you.